Alright guys, so today I got two different stories to cover, but they're both kind of related since they're both about gaming prices, so I figured I'd just loop them into one video. But first off, I'll talk about the more recent of the two, which is that Sony has announced yet another price increase for the PlayStation 5. Which this is the second one to hit the US at least. This increase is in several countries around the world. It's for the US, the UK, Europe, and Japan, which I'll put up an image on screen showing the price increases for each region. For the US, it is jumping a whopping $100 up to $650, which makes it the same exact price as the standard base model of the Xbox Series X. This is the base model of the PS5 Slim that I'm talking about here as well. So those two are in parity with each other now. The other models all got price increases too to varying degrees. The most egregious is the PS5 Pro, which is going up $150 to a whopping $900 in price, which is just absolutely insane. So how many price increase videos have I made recently talking about console prices going up or game prices going up or whatever? So, how many times can I keep saying the same things over and over? Again, I have no interest in having a futile conversation about the reason this is happening. Normally, I would say that, Xbox got away with it, so PlayStation is doing it too, but I honestly don't know if Xbox even did get away with it, because the Series XS wasn't really selling that much before they increased the price of the damn thing. So I don't even know how much that, price jump even affected the sales of it. I haven't seen any recent sales figures for the Xbox. A more competent content creator would have looked that up before recording this video. But that aside, I don't know if Xbox, did get away with it or if they had a drastic decrease in sales down from the lows that it was already at. But PlayStation is following suit, when these new prices haven't totally kicked in yet. They're starting April the 2nd, I think. So you got a few days if you are in the market for a PS5. You better hurry the fuck up, I guess. Because, who knows what price it'll be this time next year. Now, this price increase doesn't affect me personally since I already have my PS5 and I have no interest in the PS5 Pro. I never had any interest in it. I watched that fucking video they put up when they first announced that thing, showing the comparison between the standard PS5 and the PS5 Pro, and they look like the same fucking thing to me. So, I have no interest in that, especially at $900. That's ridiculous. And I already got my standard PS5 Slim, so, I'm not in the market for another one. When I did get my PS5, it was It was a Black Friday sale the year before last. And at the time, I didn't think it was that great of a deal because it was only like $75, I think, below retail. But since then, we've had two price hikes, and it's $150 higher than it was at launch. So, in hindsight, I guess it worked out pretty good for me. But anyway, like I said, the same old things every time I have to record one of these videos. The prices keep going up, and at some point it's gonna hit the tipping point where it's above market value, and people aren't gonna be buying this shit. So we'll just have to see how it goes. Which, if the PS6 ends up coming out anytime soon, which who knows when that I actually see the light of day, that fucking thing's gonna end up being over $1,000 at launch, which I'd be very interested to see how people respond to that as well. But anyway, that's one story. The other story I wanted to address here actually came out a few days ago, and this one is on the Nintendo side of things, which I have very mixed feelings about this. Because Nintendo has come out and stated that starting, is it next month or the month after? Here pretty soon, they're coming out with a new Yoshi game, Yoshi and the Mysterious Book. And they said starting with that title, all Nintendo published titles going forward on the Switch 2 are going to have variable pricing between the digital editions on the eShop and the physical editions. Which they stated specifically with Yoshi and the Mysterious Book, the physical version is going to be $70, while the digital edition is going to be $60. So it seems like Nintendo is going to start pricing their digital copies a little bit cheaper than their physical copies. Which this whole thing is something that, is sort of a glass half empty, glass half full sort of situation. It kind of depends on how you look at it. Is the physical copies $10 higher than the digital ones, or are the digital ones $10 lower than the physical ones? So, a little bit of matter of perspective in that regard. As for me personally, I feel like this is something that's actually long overdue. This really should have always been the standard ever since, digital distribution became commonplace a few console generations ago. Digital copies should have always been cheaper than the physical ones, since you are getting less. Also, the production costs are obviously cheaper since they don't have to pay to print the discs or cartridges, depending on the platform. They don't have to, pay someone to design the cover art. They don't have to pay for the cases and printing out the cover art, and I would say printing out a manual, but, they don't have manuals anymore, even in the physical copies, which is a whole nother argument I could get into for an hour and a half. But you are getting less if you buy a digital copy, so pricing the digital copies accordingly and having them be cheaper is something that just makes sense to me. And I feel like it's really dumb that they've gotten away for so long with having them be the same price as the physical versions. So ultimately, I feel like this is a good thing, at least in concept. Now, I'm a person who always chooses to get physical copies if there is one available. The only time I will purchase a game digitally is if it didn't get a physical release, or occasionally if it's, some really old game and the physical copies are like, $1,000 on eBay now, like fucking GameCube games or some shit. Then I'll go with a digital copy in those instances. But if I can get a physical copy for a reasonable price, then I will always go that route. I love having my physical media. I've always been a big advocate for it. I like having my game library. I like having my shelves full of games that I can look at and pick up and, just hold in my hands. And I would like them more if they had manuals and such with them, even today. But again, that's a whole nother argument. So, as someone who always goes that route, this news would, on its surface, seem like a negative to me, since that seems like it would, be costing me more money to get those physical copies. But is it really, since Nintendo games specifically have already, skyrocketed in price? They got retail prices of games up to $80 now. So they were pretty much already pricing all their stuff at $70 to $80. So it doesn't feel like it's going to be any more expensive than it already was going to be for me to get those physical copies. It still would be really nice if Nintendo would figure out what a fucking sale is every now and again. That would be very much appreciated. Outside of Black Friday, you can very, very rarely find first-party Nintendo stuff, physical copies on sale. Again, the digital copies on the eShop do go on sale a little bit more often than the physical ones. But if Nintendo would adopt a more industry standard pattern, I guess, for lack of a better term, if Nintendo would do like PlayStation and Xbox do, where, they come out with their games and they're full price for so long, and then after a year or 2 years or however so often, the standard price goes down. Like, you can get first-party PlayStation stuff that came out a few years ago for like $20-$30 now. So, if Nintendo would do that with their stuff instead of just, staying the full $60, $70, $80 forever, then that would be really nice. But even as it stands, this doesn't feel like a price increase for physical copies to me. I guess it can be if you look at it that way. but I feel like I was already going to have to pay those exorbitant prices anyway, so being able to have the digital option for cheaper, even if that is an option that I would most likely not end up choosing for myself, I feel like that is a good thing overall. It is something that I wish the other platforms would take up as well. I would like to see PlayStation and Xbox be able to price their digital copies lower than their physical ones. Preferably, again, by lowering the digital prices and not raising the physical ones. On PC, it's kind of a non-factor because we barely ever get any physical releases on PC at this point. Once in a blue moon, you might get one through like a limited run or a similar company. But other than that, they're pretty much non-existent. So, yeah, this seems like something that might not be the best in the world for me personally. But overall, it does feel like it's the right thing to do and something that is just really overdue. So yeah, that's the gaming price update or this month. Hopefully, I won't have to make any more videos like this. I'm kind of sick of making videos talking about prices, but I have a bad feeling that this isn't the last time we're going to see some price increases. But we'll just have to see how it goes. So anyway, I guess that's all I got to say. So lots of luck to you and yours.